this message. I was told to deliver this message.
Assalamu alaikum, family. It's your brother Landon X, NationTown TV, and this is another installment of NationTown TV Live. And as always, as you can see, just above in the caption, I guess you could say the concept or the subject on this episode is we're dealing with a change in the dynamic that we're going to force as Aboriginal people, as intelligent people. We're going to put down and we're going to prove how speaking truth to power has to be the new gangster. But let me go ahead and start off in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever, plus 1,000 days as far as I'm concerned. I further bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, to be right and exact and down to the modern times. And lastly, but not least, I bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is that brother that woke me up and let me know about those two beautiful brothers, Master Fard Muhammad and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That is the brother, you see him right there to my left, to your right, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the criterion, the discernment. And if you're intelligent, he's the one that should be leading you, teaching you, and guiding you through this crazy time that we live in. And in those three great names, I greet you all in the words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. Shout out to everybody chiming in, Brother Hakeem, TC Alamu. And we're going to get right into it because, this is the talk. This is the talk of the day, the talk of yesterday, the talk of the day before. And you know what? I don't think it's really a bad thing. I think it's good that we're talking about who we really are as a people. Are we just niggas? Or are we something greater? I think it's beautiful. You know, I always dream of a day where our so-called celebrities and athletes, where they're sitting around talking about the salvation of our people, the oppression of our people, you know, and doing it without Caucasian approval, without Peckerwood permission, as I call it. And that's pretty much the day that we're in, because almost all of the distractions that we're used to have been set aside. You know, sport and play has been set aside. So you hear athletes speaking more on topics than they ever did before. Celebrities, they're not making movies. They're not doing their TV shows. They're not hosting shows. They're not doing all these things. So they got a time to slow down, step back out of this devilish world that they worked so hard to get immersed in, and look at things for what they really are, especially with some of the things that have been going on, the murders. I almost said the death. That wouldn't be proper. The murders of your Ahmaud Arbery's, your Breonna Taylor's, your George Floyd's. So we find ourselves in a situation where some of these so-called celebrities and athletes are being put to the test. Which test? The Farrakhan litmus test. Now, as far as the title, that speaking truth to power is the new gangster. Now, in a lot of ways, you know, that's me trying to put something out there into the universe, in existence, so hopefully it'll become a reality. But let's be honest, that's really not the case yet. We still think other things when we think of that term gangster. Let me explain what I mean by gangster. I'm using it in the colloquial hip-hop term. In hip-hop culture, gangster is anything that's cool, anything that's hard, anything that's tough, anything that's considered something that you want to be in hip-hop culture, something that's extremely positive, something that people see as a standard, even somewhat as a criterion. But the word and the verbiage that we use is gangster. And if you look at it, there's nothing more gangster, more hard, more of a criterion, more impressive than somebody that speaks truth to power. Now, what are the events that I'm talking about? I don't ever want to assume on NationTown TV that everybody that's watching is privy to what's been on social media and whatever the case may be. So I'm gonna go down the line real quick. We've all heard about, you know, the ins and outs of our brother Nick Cannon. He initially stood by the words that he said on his show. Not only the words that he said on that particular episode with Professor Griff, not only the words that he said as he spoke and interviewed with and also worked with and fed thousands of people in the projects here in Los Angeles with our beloved Western Regional Student Minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad. But also, as you can see right here, on July 4th, when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan delivered his life-changing, life-altering, world-shattering message, the criterion, he didn't just watch it, he was there on the scene. What you see right there to the left is our brother there, live and in living color. And then, you know, I don't want to use the word fired, but Viacom CBS, they basically decided to sever their relationship with him. Viacom is the same company that owns BET now, that owns MTV. So all your favorite reality shows, real baby mamas of so-and-so and all that kind of stuff, that's the company that dropped your boy, your brother, Nick Cannon. So consider that next time you glue to your television screen to see the next episode, to see what Shaniqua and Kiki got to say about this, that, and the other. I'm not just saying that to make fun of those kind of shows. I really don't know what's going on those shows because I don't waste my time with it. I'm talking about reality shows. But also on top of that, you had, even before that, you had our brother Deshaun Jackson, who is an all-pro football player for the Philadelphia Eagles. He played for the Philadelphia Eagles when he first came in the league, then signed with the Redskins, went back to the Eagles. And he's a great player. He's actually from out here in California. I think he went to the University of California, Berkeley. intelligent brother. He decided to send a tweet, you know, showing love to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He also posted an erroneous quote from Hitler. And whenever you're dealing with Hitler, you always got to be careful. But he dropped the ball on that in a lot of ways. And then he eventually he was scalded. He was reprimanded by the team. I heard reports that he was cut by the Philadelphia Eagles. I haven't seen anything to substantiate that, but then after he went through all of that, went through all those rigors, they basically forced him to meet up with a Auschwitz survivor, and now he's prepared to go on a trip to the closed concentration camp Auschwitz, which I think is interesting, because I can't think of the last time someone said something racist toward black people and they were forced to go to the tunnel of no return in the Gambia, or even go to Tulsa, Oklahoma at the Greenwood Cultural Center, which is the site of where the Black Wall Street Massacre took place. You know, whenever these businesses are capitalizing off of our money but not treating us the way that they should, not to mention prison labor and the like. But that's what happened with him. And then you also had our brother Steven Jackson, also known for our sports fans out there, Stack 5. Steven Jackson was also there for the Criterion message. He also met on several different occasions with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And as soon as he did that, which started with his support of a good friend of his, which was George Floyd. But as soon as he did that, when he was with LGBTQ protesters, also known as Black Lives Matter, there wasn't an issue. But as soon as, you know, people saw that picture that you see right there, as soon as that happened, you know, and him saying those actual words, that's a quote that you see right there, Minister Farrakhan is my teacher, he didn't say one of my teachers. He didn't say, oh, he's a good guy, oh, I kind of like him. He said, this is my teacher. And then he even doubled down on it with a video saying, listen, if you don't like it, you know, you can kiss my backside. And those who are not familiar with Steven Jackson, he was one of the, I hate to dig up some, I wouldn't call it dirt, but he was one of the main, he was a part of that brawl in the NBA that took place between the Detroit Pistons and the Indiana Pacers. You would have to YouTube it to the younger people watching who really don't know. But it was a huge brawl that included him and Ron Artest and so forth. And he was in that. So that told me a lot about him from that point. But after all of this, it's become a situation where we've seen the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, many Jewish rabbis who didn't see a reason to speak up when George Floyd was murdered. They didn't see a reason to speak up when Sandra Bland came up dead in custody of Texas police. They didn't see the need to speak up under any other circumstance. But as soon as somebody just mentions Farrakhan or the Jewish people, they pop up out of nowhere. And then they almost force or even suggest. Now, they haven't always been successful. Ice Cube has not buckled. Ice Cube was one of the first in this line of celebrities to step up in support of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He doubled down on his support, a support stream that goes all the way back to the 90s. He doubled down on that before the Criterion message. And he has yet to buckle. He has yet to apologize, I should say. Because we're going to talk about that use of the word buckle and fold. I've used it, unfortunately, a couple of times. But we're gonna talk about a little bit of that later. But shout out to everybody chiming in. Hit us up with your questions and comments. Make sure you share this video. If you're watching, you should be sharing. If you're sharing, you should be watching. Watch and share. Get this message out there. We won't be on too long, but I do just want to go over a few things. Now, first and foremost, I just want to say that, and this is to a couple of groups, my conscious, so-called conscious, woke family, and also to registered believers and followers or sympathizers of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I want to remind you of something when it comes to these celebrities. When they decide that they're going to apologize, or they're going to, you know, just get a little shaky on their square, you have to understand that most of them are not really standing on a square. They're standing on a TV show. They're standing on an album. They're standing on a record deal. They're standing on, the office that they're trying to run for, because politicians go into that too. And a lot of us who are believers, some of us even registered believers, we're a little too judgmental, and according to our teachings, we shouldn't be. Because we should know what we're looking at. Just because these are people who have shown some type of sympathy or, elite, or I won't even say allegiance, but if we ever find ourselves relying on the 85% to represent us and to properly represent the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, apologize for that technical difficulty we just had. Let me make sure that we back on. All praises due to Allah. All praises due to Allah. But yeah, we still on. We back on. But so what I want to do for the believers, for the so-called sympathizers, I want to remind you of something. In our Supreme Wisdom lessons, and this is very important. In our Supreme Wisdom lessons, we're told who the 85% is. In Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, question number 14, the question is asked, who is the 85%? And the answer is the uncivilized people, poison animal eaters, slaves from mental death now, and power. People who do not know the living God or their origin in this world. And they worship that they know not what, who are easily led in the wrong direction, but hard to lead in the right direction. I'm going to say that again. Easy to lead in the wrong direction, hard to lead in the right direction. Now, some of us as believers fall into that same category. But let's remember who they are. So why do we put so much hope in an 85er? Those who are not registered members, but you just consider yourself woke, why are you putting all your hope into somebody that's asleep, that's still technically asleep? It's good that they're waking up. But as I mentioned before, when you wake up, you're still on your back. So that's why I don't even like to use that term, woke. Up. UP is the word that I prefer to use, because when you wake up, you're still laying down. A lot of us are masters of hitting that snooze button too. So we got to be careful with being so judgmental of them. But I want to point out that in the Nation of Islam, we believe that not only is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan our divine leader, teacher, guide, but we also believe that he is the Jesus figure in our midst. The Jesus figure in our midst. Not that he's the Jesus of 2,000 years ago, because this ain't 2,000 years ago. We're taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, this beautiful brother over my shoulder, that the majority of the scripture, particularly the Bible, and 3/4 of the teaching of Jesus is actually prophecy and not history. So I want to bring something to your attention. In the Bible, my Bible, your Bible, our Bible, we also call it the poison book, not as a diss, but anything that's poison. When you go into the drugstore, every drug, if you have a cold, if you have COVID-19, whatever illness you have, when you go and get a drug from CVS or Rite Aid or Walgreens, if you turn it around, you also always see instructions on the back that tell you not to exceed the limits of that medicine, because if you do, you could be in bad shape. Some people commit suicide by taking beyond the dosage of a certain medicine. But in the Bible, so basically when it comes to poison, poison can be used to both medicate and murder. And let's face it, Let's face it, all medicine is poison. Now, in the Bible, in the book of John, chapter 7, verse 13, it says it quite clear. Howbeit no man spake openly of him for fear of the Jews. Now, in your Bible, this is talking about Jesus. This is talking about the Jesus as described in the Bible. So now, every time you run into something in the Bible, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, every time you run into I don't want to call it a character, but a person in the Bible, you have to take it and superimpose it over the world you live in today for you to get anything out of it. If you just look at it like a cool story, as the greatest story ever told, you'll get nothing out of it, regardless of what your religious beliefs are. But if you take any scripture, even if you take it, and miss me with that, oh, I don't think Jesus ever existed, oh, I don't believe in the Bible. Listen, you believe in The Matrix, which is clearly a fictional movie that was directed by two Jewish transvestites. That's a fact. That's a fact. And I hear Negroes, so-called woke Negroes, talking about a blue pill and a red pill and come up out of the Matrix and all of that. And we know that that's fiction. So you can even take fiction. I've read books, fictional books and novels that made me look at life a little bit different, even though it was fiction. But the only way you can get anything out of scripture is if you take what you read and superimpose it over the world you live in today and ask yourself, okay, how does it fit? So when you look at that verse, King James Bible, book of John, 7:13, howbeit no man spake openly of him for fear of the Jews, who falls into that category? Who falls into the role of Jesus based on that? If you know your Bible, then you know that Jesus was constantly going back and forth with the Jews. It was like these battle raps that you see, on the internet. He was going back and forth with them all day. Go into chapter 8 of John, you'll see it. It's like Wild Now. Jesus going up against these Jews. They going at each other's neck. And Jesus won. Spoiler alert, he won. He blasted them. He said, you are of your father, the devil. Now, so that's how we feel about the minister, based on logic, based on superimposing the scripture over the world that we live in today. So having said that, we're faced with a situation where a lot of people are being forced to pick a side, just like it was in the days of Jesus 2,000 years ago. Now, going back to our actual topic, that speaking truth to power is the new gangster. Because I really want to stay on that point. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Sister Sherry Land Giles, Brother Willie Muhammad, Brother Daniel E. Muhammad. Shout out to everybody. Make sure you hit us with your comments and questions. Because let's talk about what's currently considered gangster, what's currently considered cool. And I'm going to tell you what made this come to my mind. There was I don't know if it was a tweet. I believe it was a tweet or an Instagram post by 50 Cent, the rapper 50 Cent, where he was taunting our brother Nick Cannon about losing his deal with Viacom CBS. And it got me to thinking about something, but I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This is 50 Cent, as you can see at the tag at the top left. And he's saying, damn, Nicky, speaking of Nick Cannon, what the F was you on that stupid ass podcast talking about? No more Wild Now, huh? Don't worry, be happy. Branson, Cognac, whatever. And I looked at that and I said to myself, wow, that's one of the corniest things I've ever seen a black man do in public to another black man. Especially considering that 50 just said a couple of months ago on a radio show that Nick Cannon is legendary corny. But that was actually the corniest thing I ever seen a rapper do. That was cornier than any Vanilla Ice video. That was cornier than them MC Hammer Pepsi commercials. It was cornier than anything I ever saw a rapper do. Any rapper. Any mumble rapper. Any rapper. Because we got to get to the point where disunity and kicking a brother while he was down, especially when he was pushed down by the enemy. We got to get to the point where that's equivalent to snitching, where that's equivalent to just being a homosexual, being a punk. I'm talking about hip hop culture. We almost at a point where it's cool to be homosexual in hip hop. And it's cool to kick a brother while he's down and just got pushed down by the enemy. So that got me to thinking somebody like 50 Cent, and he's my brother too. But somebody like 50 Cent who's patterned his whole career around being so-called gangster, being a real nigga, something he's achieved. He's achieved that image. I got to give him that. We got to start looking at what's really gangster. But let's look at what was considered gangster before and what's considered gangster now. Let's just be honest. First of all, one thing that's considered gangster is somebody who's quick to fight another black man. Let's just keep it all the way 100. You know, I'm not that nigga to steal on. I'm a real nigga. I wish a nigga would. This is all a part of the hip hop vernacular. You know, pull up. You know, take my fade. You know, let's run this fade. You know, this is considered gangster when you quickly, you know, will go against your brother, somebody that looks just like you. Another example is somebody who's quick to kill another black man. I'm gonna pull something up from, if you remember that episode of the Boondocks dealing with a nigga moment. If you listen to hip hop, some of my favorite rappers, I love hip hop, but you'll be hard pressed to find a hip hop album that's not talking about murder, that's not talking about guns, it's not talking about killing another black man. That's why I'm not a big fan of these battle rap leagues that they have now. Every rapper on there, their punchlines revolve around gunplay against a black man. Gunplay against a black man, but this is considered gangster. Another thing that's considered gangster in hip hop culture is being a 2020 slave, otherwise known as a prisoner, otherwise known state property. It was a rap clique literally called state property, which is a term given to by the state, by Caucasians, to anybody who becomes a prisoner in any state. You become state property. If you go to federal prison, you're considered federal property. A human being is considered federal property. And to this day, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. If you spend 10 years in prison, that's considered more of an accomplishment than you spending 6 years in college getting your master's degree. That's just real. We see it all the time in the hood. Brother came home from college. Hey man, I just got my degree. Hey man, I just got my master's degree. Hey man, I just got my, oh for real? Oh all right, yeah, that's cool. Homeboy come home from doing a 10-year bid. I mean, we barbecuing now. The whole hood turned up. Because this is considered gangster. Now, I got love for my brothers on the inside because I understand the system and the tentacles of that system that push them in that direction of becoming a modern day slave. So I have love for them, but I don't look at them as if they're somehow stronger or better than anybody. I don't see it as a positive. I see it the same way I see a brother who's eating out the trash can. I'm not going to laugh at him, but at the same time, I'm not going to say, oh man, that's cold right there. He eating up all them old potato chips that somebody threw away. That's dope. Yeah, he got heart. Nah, you ain't going to catch me talking like that. And then another thing that's considered gangster is selling dope, particularly crack cocaine. That's considered gangster. So that's what I mean when I say that speaking truth to power has to be the new gangster. Now, speaking of prison, there's a myth that you hear. Some brothers who did time in prison will back this up. Some won't. Like I said on a previous episode, you know, everything I know about prison and through the friends that I had who have been, and family that have been through that system. And if I didn't have friends that gang bang and went to prison, I wouldn't have friends at all. Most of the people that I know, not only friends and family, but also in the ranks in the Nation of Islam who did time, they don't vouch for this myth, but you hear it on TV and everything. This myth that, okay, when you go to prison, if you want to deal with somebody, my bad, but if you want to deal with somebody, or if you want to get a certain reputation on the prison yard, then you want to go to the biggest, baddest dude on the yard and fight him. Don't do that. Don't do that. Even if that's what you think is going to help you, don't do that. But I know everybody watching has heard that before, right? And if that were to happen, if a brother did, hit the yard and the first thing he did was still on the hardest dude on the yard, the brother who got the most respect, the brother who got the most notorious reputation, if the brother don't get killed in the process, that's gonna up his status a little bit, right? So let's look at the world that we living in on the outside of prison walls. Who is the biggest and baddest that's out here in the political realm, in the corporate realm, in the real world out here, right? Who are the biggest, most powerful people that we know of? You know who it is. I don't even have to say it. And if you don't know, you definitely can't consider yourself conscious or woke. Not just the ADL, but the so-called Jew themselves. And I say so-called Jews because we got to make a distinction. There are those that are Jews, and then there are those that say they're Jews and are not. The ADL predominantly consists of those that say they're Jews, but are really not. And I'm only basing that on their actions. And essentially what they are in the ADL, they are the Debos of the political and social spectrum. They Debo. Take it or let it alone. They are the Debo of falsehood. They're the Debo of the world. They're the Debo of entertainment. Now, why am I saying that? Why am I saying that the ADL and the so-called Jew, as the minister calls them, the imposter Jew? Because there are some Hasidic Jews, European Jews, they're not Semitic, they're European, who actually are striving to live their life based on the Torah, not the Talmud. So when we look at these so-called Jews that run the ADL, they absolutely fit the description of Debo. For the sake of a little levity, but also a little bit of understanding, let's talk about what Debo was and what he did in the movie Friday. First of all, Debo created fear. He brought fear amongst all those that he came around. Even in the original movie, when he just rolled down the street in his bicycle, what did you hear? Dun-dun, dun-dun. Like he was Jaws or something, like any villain on a movie. When he pulled up on you, you would tuck your chain in. Remember Red said, I'm just going to tuck mines in? That's what you see a lot of these black celebrities and politicians. They try to tuck Farrakhan in. They try to tuck how they feel about their people or the love for their people in. Now, they'll freely show love to anybody else. Homosexuals, LGBTQ, dogs, cats, rats, ducks, insects. They'll show love to anything else. But when the ADL come around, they will tuck the love for themselves and for their own people. They will tuck that in quickly. So they absolutely fit that description of Debo. Also, Debo was a thief. Debo robbed. Remember when they went up in the neighbor's house? And then Smokey came out and said, tell him, Debo, we got about $200. What Debo said? Debo said, I got about $200. So they absolutely are a thief. And they rob money. Oh, brother, don't say that. Okay, I won't say that. I'll just show you that. The United States of America had absolutely zero involvement in the Holocaust. However, as you see right here, U.S. military aid to Israel has done nothing but skyrocket over the years. What you see to the right there is the comparison of money that has been sent to other nations. It's not even close. About $4 billion of your tax money is sent to this place called Israel that's really Palestine, that was stolen from the Palestinians, occupied. Just like that scene on Friday, where Red pulled up and said, oh yeah, it's really both of ours. You know, man, Pop's tripping. He talking about I need to get my bike back. And what did Debo say? He said, it's my bike, punk, after he knocked him out. That's exactly what Israel did to Palestine. You can take it or let it alone. And then since we're talking about bikes, let's talk about that Palestinian bike. Take a look. This is Palestine on the left in the beginning. But you see green, that's the Palestinian strongholds and communities. They didn't have no problem with Jews living in Palestine. They never had a problem with Jews living in Palestine. So the white that you see on the far left, the white is the Jewish population. And then over the years, from left to right, you see what's going on. And that's not Palestinian flight, like white flight. When we move into a neighborhood and then white folks move out, that's not what happened. What you see going from left to right is war. What you see going from left to right is Debo. What you see going from left to right is one group of people with the support of the entire world, $3.84 billion coming from America, military aid, pushing them out, murdering them, pillaging them, forcing them out. And in that furthest right picture, you see the little green spot over there to the left? That's the little area near the Gaza Strip where they allow Palestinians to live right now on their own land. Allow them. This is gentrification on a global scale that you see right there. So I want the minister himself to explain to you a little bit about this thing called the Farrakhan litmus test. Because that's what I was going to name the topic of this video. The Farrakhan litmus test is really the measure of the new gangster. But let's listen to the minister as he breaks down what the Farrakhan litmus test is for all those who may or may not be privy to what it is and what it entails.
Habakkuk, the prophet of the Old Testament, said, God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, and the curtains of Midian began to tremble. The curtains that block out light. When truth comes, the curtains begin shaking. That's the way white folk are, who are in power. When they meet a man who knows the truth and is not afraid to tell it. This is why white folk gotta ask all of you who are in positions of authority, what do you think about Farrakhan? What do you think about it? And based upon how you answer, they can determine how live or dead you are. How you relate to me and what I teach determines how alive or dead you are in the eyes of the oppressor. And you begin to show signs that you like Farrakhan, then they start sifting you right away. If you wanted something and they knew it, they'll try to hold it back from you and tell you unless you denounce him, you ain't gonna get what you after. Something, ain't it?
Listen.
All praise is due to Allah. So that's the minister in his own words breaking down the dynamic of that Farrakhan litmus test. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute before we get out of here. But I'm assuming that almost everybody that's watching right now, to some degree or other, you're a hip-hop fan. And you know, whether you grew up on Rakim or Boogie Down Productions, or if you're growing up off of Migos, hip hop is hip hop. It's actually beautiful, in my opinion, that hip hop has so many genres. No matter what it is you like, there's a type of hip hop that matches your personality. But over the last 30 or so years of hip hop, being hard, being tough, being gangster has been a huge part of hip hop culture. But I got bad news for those who like to sit up and think, okay, this rapper is a punk, this rapper is snitch, that rapper right there, oh, he really about that life, that one over there, he really gangster, this one, that one, or whatever. I'm gonna tell you, whoever your favorite rapper is, at some point in their career, or maybe even right now as we speak, your favorite rapper has been in or is currently in somebody's boardroom getting punked. Your favorite rapper gets deboed by people that look like this. Now, you might think this is just some random picture of a white dude that I just found just to be funny. Actually, it's not. This is one of the most powerful executives in the hip-hop music industry. This is Leor Cohen. You've heard his name. You probably didn't know his face, but you've heard his name before. He's worked closely with Russell Simmons and Def Jam. He's got 1 or 2 degrees of separation to almost every top hip hop artist over the last 30 years. Look at him. Look at the shirt. How many gold chains he got on? How many tattoos he got? Look how far his pants is pulled up. Look at him. He just look like he smell like mayonnaise. Just look at him. Look at him. Look like he pushing his cart through Whole Foods right now. But this is who your favorite rapper, who you think is so gangster, because the set that they say they claim, because of how much dope they claim they sold, how many women they pimped, how many they did. You think they so gangster, but when they go into the room with him, I guarantee you see a different gangster. You see a different MC whatever, Lil whatever. I guarantee you. So these are the people that your favorite celebrities, your favorite black celebrities are bowing down to on a daily basis. That's your Debo. Now, some of the people who really don't understand this controversy with Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Jews, what I'm seeing some of on social media are black folks saying that old Negro spiritual, I love everybody. I don't know why he keep messing with them Jews. Them Jews ain't done nothing to him. Farrakhan need to leave him alone. See, I'm not even going to argue about it because I love everybody. I love everybody. Now, usually when you hear this terminology, that I love everybody, I can guarantee you talking to somebody who really does not love anybody. For 2 reasons. One, if they say that they love everybody, what they're really saying is that they think they love white people. They think they love white people. I can't even give them that much. Because as I mentioned before, those of you that know me, who watch NationTown TV, I say this all the time. Love is a currency. Just like money. It's something that you have to have an abundance of in order to hand any out. If you ask me for $10 and I only have $1 to my name, guess who not getting $10 from me? You. Because I just don't have it for myself. Even if I do have $10, but I got a bill to pay that's $8 and I need something to eat and I don't have nothing but $2 left to eat, guess who not getting $10 from me? You. Because I still don't have it. I can't afford to give it to you. I can only afford to give you $10 if I got 10,000. And after my bills, I still have some left where I can afford to give you that $10. Love works the exact same way. And there's not a greater lack of self-love anywhere on this earth than in the so-called American black community. We just don't have any love for ourselves. So we can't afford to give it to nobody else. Like I always say, to my brothers and sisters who really want to love this white man, ain't nothing wrong with that. That's actually commendable that you want to love everybody. That's commendable. I salute that. You know, just like if you say, man, I just want to build a house or apartment complex or a skyscraper in every city and house it with nothing but homeless people. I want to make sure, I want to eradicate homelessness. That's beautiful. Or I want to feed all the homeless people. That's a beautiful concept. But if you want to feed all these homeless people, the first step is getting access to enough food. You can't feed all the homeless people out of your own refrigerator when you barely got enough for yourself and for your family. If you want to house every homeless person, the first step you got to do is at least get one house. What you talking about housing every homeless person when you barely got a house yourself or don't even own your own house? You got to get started, right? So we have to start getting love for ourselves before we can give it to this Caucasian. Now, another issue I have with this is that usually the same Negroes who say, I love everybody, these are the same ones, especially in hip-hop culture, that'll say, F the haters. You know, brothers say, F female dogs, get money. F these niggas. You know, I'm doing me. This is the kind of rhetoric that we get amongst each other. But then all of a sudden, and whether it's just a regular civilian, a gangster rapper, an athlete, the same athlete that'll dunk on somebody and beat his chest and be ready to fight, literally ready to fight in a basketball game, a football game, you know, growling, grunting. This same dude will be in the locker room with a microphone in his face and they say, oh, we see that you retweeted a post from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. How do you feel about that? Oh, man, I love everybody. This the same dude who told you he was a beast yesterday. This is the same dude that was rapping on a track yesterday about how, you know, he'll pull out his strap, he'll pull out his gun, and it'll do this and do that, and you like, ooh, and now he's saying, I love everybody. So that's the contradiction in that. Y'all know how I like to bust up contradictions. And then some of us try to take the religious escape route. Well, I love everybody because, and this is based on a true story. True story. And as a brother in the ranks who can back me up, if Brother Tomeen is watching, he can bear me witness. We were out on post one day, and we were having a conversation between me and him. It was a private conversation, but we were speaking out loud. And the word hate came out of my mouth. I don't even remember the context in which I used it. And there was just a sister walking past. And she stopped. She stopped, turned to me and said, interrupted our conversation. You should never use the word hate. God don't like hate. Hate, you should never use. My mama told me God don't like hate. And I said, yes, ma'am, I understand. And then in the same tone of voice that I'm using right now, I said, well, ma'am, can I show you something? And she said, sure. And she said, well, you know, I ain't no Muslim, so if you're going to show me something out of it, because we had the newspapers on it, we had the final call. I said, no, ma'am, I'm not going to. I pulled out my cell phone. I pulled up the Bible on my cell phone. I said, ma'am, I want to show you what God really thinks about the word hate. I said, do you know the word hate can be found in several places in the Bible? And even God hates? She couldn't believe it. She literally said, I don't believe it. So just like on NationTown TV, only this was live and in person, I showed her what I was saying. Let's start with this. Book of Proverbs 6:16 through 19. There are 6 things. How many? Man, 6? There are 6 things that the Lord hates. 7 that are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Shout out to Palestine. A heart that devises wicked plans. Shout out to the ADL and the agents that they send into the Black Panther Party as well as the Nation of Islam. Feet that make haste to run to evil. A false witness who breathes out lies. The minister is an anti-Semite. That's false witness 100%. And one who sows discord among brothers. I already mentioned that. Who's sending agents? There are two organizations, two institutions that have sent agents into the Nation of Islam. One, the FBI. Two, the ADL. Oh, not only that, we got more. Book of Psalm 97:10. O you who love the Lord, hate evil. He didn't say dislike evil. He said hate evil. He preserves the lives of his saints. He delivers them from the hand of the wicked. Oh, there's more. Book of Psalms again, man. They banging in Psalms. The Lord tests the righteous, but his soul hates, there go that mama, there go that word, hates the wicked and the one who loves violence. Who's the one that loves violence in the world we live today? Remember, you got to superimpose it. Once again, Book of Proverbs. The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil. So if you say you fear God or love God, you are also saying that you automatically hate if you respect the teachings of your Bible. Oh, y'all thought that was it? I got more. Isaiah 61:8. For I, this is God talking. I mean, this is very clear. I don't care how dumb you are. This is very clear. For I, the Lord, love justice, but I hate robbery and wrong. Robbery, kind of like slaves, robbed from an entire continent spread out over the entire Western Hemisphere. I will faithfully give them their recompense, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. And I got one more. Before I hit this last one, this is the, I mentioned, dunking before, dunking on somebody. This one is the slam dunk that covers all of them. So before I bring this up, I gotta get a drum roll. So get a drum roll for my viewers. This is the one that covers it all. If you didn't remember none of those, this is the one that you want to remember. King James Bible, Book of Matthew, and this is the New Testament too, for those who might say, well, Jesus never said nothing. Okay. Because this is Jesus talking. No man, this is Matthew 6:24. Remember that. No man, no, not one, no man can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one, and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. God and mammon. I mean, straight like that. It's clear, and I'm going to leave that up there for a minute. No man can serve two masters. Either hate the one and love the other. That's part of our plight here in America. As Aboriginal people, the black, the brown, the Native American, we walk around here with 3 or 4 or 5 masters. In fact, one of those masters is not even just the white man. It's the white man's tool, which is the modern celebrity, the black celebrity. Like I mentioned in our Revolutionary Relationships episode, the black celebrity has essentially replaced the black preacher as the puppet that the enemy uses to persuade us. And they become our new master. And that's another reason why a lot of black folks, even believers and followers of the Nation of Islam and so-called conscious woke folks, that's why y'all so upset. That's why a lot of us are so upset with the Nick Cannons and the Steven Jacksons. Because that's a master of yours. Oh, no, that ain't my master. That ain't my master. Okay. Well, who is your master? Is God your master? No, I'm my own. Oh, you're your own master. Okay, so you reach in your pocket and you spend your money and you give it to who and for what? To go to concerts, to buy that album, to go to that movie. We know who your master is. And since we look at these celebrities as our master, when we so hopeful for them to stand up to our real enemy, listen, we don't have to keep explaining who the ADL is, who the so-called Jew is. So when you see them speak up, you feel good. You feel good on a couple of levels. Some of us just feel good because our God is standing up to our devil. Your God is the celebrity. The devil is, you got the devil part right. You know who the devil is. But even some believers, in my humble estimation, those of us who, I'll put it like this, we see this white man's world in a brighter light than we see our own world, our own nation. Because that's what we run to as soon as we get rubbed the wrong way. In the process of building a nation, we run right back into the bosom of that enemy. So when we see the celebrities echoing and sharing and following the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because let's face it, some of us are ashamed of what we say we believe. Some of us are tucking our Islam in. Some of us are tucking our intelligence in. You know, we want to hide it when Debo come around. And we feel a little bit better about pulling it out when these celebrities that we worship, you know, bang on the enemy a little bit. So, to those who believe that, oh, you know, the minister, he teaches hate, you might want to get acquainted with your own Bible. Get acquainted with the things that you say you believe in. Shout out to everybody chiming in. NationTownTV. Like I said, hit us up with your questions and comments. Shout out to Brother Jonah. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Jonah. He says, bro is speaking such powerful knowledge. The real gangster. All praises due to Allah. Shout out to Brother Jonah. That's my brother right there. He came through with some really good questions on that Revolutionary Relationships episode we did. Brother Jonah also said, is Chance the Rapper getting deboed? Other apparently independent rappers? Well, I'm not going to throw out just one brother, Brother Jonah. Brother Chance the Rapper, I actually admire Chance the Rapper. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave a shout out to Chance the Rapper a few years ago because of the fact that he is independent. You know, he's winning Grammys and getting nominated for Grammys off of 100% independent work. But he did something that was a little questionable. And that's where I believe it was when the Ice Cube controversy a month ago was really picking up steam. And he kind of took, I don't think it was the Ice Cube situation. No, it was the J. Cole situation where this LGBTQ feminist tried to accuse J. Cole of being a misogynist, and, you know, and Chance the Rapper kind of took their side on it. But, you know, overall, Chance the Rapper, I think, is a very unique and intelligent young brother, and I like his music. But I wouldn't put him out there by himself. I wouldn't, you know, just put the spotlight on him. We also have Opulent Cuts Martin. Alhamdulillah, he says, impressive. May Allah continue to bless you with the means to do this work. Man, all praises due to Allah. You said it right. All praises due to Allah. Alhamdulillah. You know, the only thing that you see of NationTown TV, myself, anybody else you see on NationTown TV, the only thing that you really seeing is a connection to these men right here. All you really seeing, if you see anything of any value on NationTown TV, all you seeing is a connection to these. Like, you know, I got a light above my head right now. The only reason that light is shining is because I paid my light bill, and there's an electrical current that is successfully flowing through the conduits, the copper wiring and conduits behind my wall. If I stop paying my light bill, or if there's any type of storm or earthquake or something that cuts off that energy flow, then I'll be sitting in the dark, hot, because it's hot outside. So that's all you're seeing is a little bit spark of energy, and that just goes to show how valuable it is to have a connection to God. Now, going forward, I want to all those who are still kind of confused on this whole Minister Farrakhan and Jews controversy, the thing that really set them off was in the 80s, when the Nation of Islam began the production. It wasn't no comment from the minister. I don't believe that. It wasn't a misconstrued comment about Hitler being great. Because when the minister said that, he was not saying that Hitler was a great person, as in a good person. I'm sure everybody watching this or that will watch this has heard of the Great Depression. That was the time in the 1930s where even the richest people were dirt poor all of a sudden. You had rich, so-called formerly rich people and poor people in the same soup line. It was called the Great Depression because it was the greatest and biggest financial collapse in the history of America. Not because it was a cool time to be alive. It was a terrible time to be alive. In the scripture, it talks about great and dreadful day. How you going to be great and dreadful if you're looking at great as something that's good? Great deals with magnitude, not quality. It deals with magnitude. But I believe the real reason that these so-called imposter Jews have been mad at the minister for going on 30 years, almost my entire lifetime, is because these 3 sets of books right here. The secret relationship between blacks and Jews. This is what they mad at. Tell them why you mad, son. This is why they're mad. Please order these books. Go to store.finalcall.com. Store, S-T-O-R-E, finalcall.com. Order these books. And I'm going to tell you what really makes these books a thorn in the side of the so-called Jew. I'm going to tell you what this book is not. Because some of you who've never cracked these books open might be thinking this. Let me tell you what it's not. It is not a book where from cover to cover, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan or any Muslim is just giving you their opinion about the so-called Jewish people. It's not an opinion at all. It's not one person writing it at all. An entire research team in the Nation of Islam went into Jewish libraries, into Jewish artifacts, into Jewish history, and they pulled up things that Jewish scholars themselves said. They compiled it, put it together, and they put it in these books, and they sourced them all. What do I mean by source? That means every page that you read, at the bottom of the page, there are sources that tell you where you yourself can go and look up the Jewish scholarship that backs that up. There's almost no direct commentary from a Muslim in these books. It's simply a compilation of things that they said themselves. That tells you everything you need to know about who they are. So definitely make sure you go and read those books, purchase those books. Now, before we get out of here, I got to deal with another issue that our brothers like to say, especially when this Jew issue comes up, when this Jewish issue comes up between the minister and the Nation of Islam and the so-called Jews. They're not all bad. Some are good. So I met one. I work with one. My boss is my landlord is one. They not bad. They not bad at all. I see them all the time. They not bad. First of all, most of y'all don't even know a Jew. But those who do, you might agree with this. And let me say something to you. If you've ever done this before, and that's the look that you have on your face when you do it, by the way. If you feel that way, I see nothing at all wrong with that. Because, to be honest, that's mathematically correct. There's no way that you can generalize an entire group of people and say that they are all one way or the other, that they are all one way or the other. That's literally impossible. So if you feel that way, I'm not going to sit up here and argue with you. Mathematically, we're taught in the Nation of Islam, mathematics is Islam. Islam is mathematics. It stands true. It can be proven in no limit of time. Mathematically, that is absolutely correct. They are not all bad. They are not all descendants of Jewish people who financed the slave trade. Oh yeah, they financed the slave trade. Look that up in that book that I just showed you. the 3-part series of the relationship between blacks and Jews. But they are not all like that. I guarantee you they are not. I ain't met too many that qualify as not being like that, but I know for a fact, mathematically speaking, it's a mathematical impossibility that they all believe, that they all even support the ADL, I know for a fact that they don't all believe in the Talmud, which is where a lot of their wickedness, the so-called Jews, their wickedness comes from. But I got one question for you. I got one request for those who say they're not all that bad. Some are good. I saw a sister say that exactly on Facebook a couple of days ago. I heard it with my own ears. I see celebrities say it all the time. I got one request. Can y'all guess what that request is? I say it all the time. Keep that same energy, not with your enemy, but with your own people. See, I switched it up on you. If you want to defend this white man, this European Jew, and say, Jewish, and say that they're not all bad, well, to my sisters, I want you to remember that when you say niggas ain't shh. To my brothers who got a problem with the sisters, man, all these hoes, they ain't this, they ain't that. Remember that. To my gang banging home, we got a lot of brothers in the rap game who have ties to different sets in the streets. When you say I love everybody or they not all that bad, well, remember that when you bang on somebody. Because they got a blue flag hanging out their left pocket or a red flag hanging out their right back pocket. Whatever the case may be, I want you to keep that same energy. I want you to keep that energy when you living in the hood and then you got these dreams of moving out of the hood and being around people that don't look like you. And then you try to rationalize it by saying, but in the hood is dangerous. Really? Every street? All your neighbors are gangbangers? All of them? Really? They're not all bad. Some of them are good. In fact, when it comes to the hood, we're not all bad. Most of us are just hard-working people trying to get from day to day. Just trying to get by. Not trying to get over, but trying to get by. So if that's how you feel about your Jewish friends, to use a word that Nick Cannon used, then that's fine. But never forget that. Never forget that with your own people. That we're not all bad. Our communities are not all bad. Black men not all bad. Black women not all bad. So just make sure you keep that energy. Now, before we get out of here, once again, shout out to all the viewers, NationTown viewers. I want you to hear some more from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because I had to check myself a little bit yesterday. Because I'll admit, I was upset when Nick Cannon apologized. When he released an apology. A lot of people saying, oh, that wasn't really him. Fact is that whether it was him or not, he probably don't write a lot of his rhymes in his music. Like most rappers, some of your favorite rappers, Drake, Lil Wayne, don't write a lot of their rhymes. But he approved it. I was upset. But I got to thinking about it. And whenever I do something like, I just read some comments from the viewers and, brothers giving me props, giving NationTown props. I realize, I bear witness that whenever I do anything that makes any sense, that's of any value, it's usually because I took a step back and I took a look at my minister, or I took a look at this beautiful brother over my shoulder. And those two men are one and the same, if you understand. So I thought about the minister and how he felt in a situation where there was is a politician out of Minnesota who, ironically, is right now the Attorney General in the state of Minnesota. He was the Attorney General when George Floyd was murdered. And that is a brother by the name of Keith Ellison, who was a registered member of the Nation of Islam back in the 90s. But when he decided to pursue a political career, he tried to cut all ties with the Nation of Islam. So what I want you to watch is the minister responding to Keith Ellison openly acting as if he never met the minister, he was never in the Nation of Islam. But listen to the minister's words carefully and how he deals with and how he dealt with Keith Ellison.
Keith Ellison, you ain't got a picture of Keith? Well, let me talk about him. Now, Keith was in the Nation in 1995.
That's right.
He was selling the Final Call newspaper.
Right.
Beautiful brother. And being in Minnesota, I think that's where he's from, he wants to help his community. He's a lawyer, so he wants to help his community, so he wants to become a congressman. You do? Wasn't that Farrakhan that you were with? Wait. Oh, that's my brother. Yeah, but I'm not here to bash him. I'm not here to bash my brother.
Not at all.
Let me tell you something. When you want something in this world, the Jew holds the door. You remember that picture of them taking Jesus up on the mountain? Say your father told you he was going to give you a kingdom. And Satan said, but look out here. No, put Brother Ellison back up. I ain't finished talking about it. Jesus, your father's late in this kingdom business, but I own all these cities out here. If you want to run them, just bow down to me. See, that's where he traps you. You walk like a little punk because you want something and they seem to have it. So you will.
All praises due to Allah. A couple of things I want you to pay attention to. The fact that he didn't use his stage and this opportunity in front of, like they say, you know, preaching to the choir. He's talking to all either believers in the Nation of Islam or sympathizers. People who already agree with everything that come out of his mouth before it even come out of his mouth. But he didn't allow. Did you hear the brother in the audience like, yeah, there he is. The picture's up now. Get him. That's how we get with the minister. Yeah, get him. And he said, I'm not here to bash him. See, the minister understands the machinations of the enemy. There are three major elements to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Knowledge of God, knowledge of self, and then knowledge of the devil. You have to really know how this devil operates and what he does, and that's really what separates us from the minister. So him understanding the nature of this beast, that also gives him a certain amount of compassion. And it's our duty as the so-called civilized, as the so-called conscious, as the so-called 5%, you know, to teach the savage instead of beat the savage. So I had to kind of deal with that. I had to kind of, you know, wake myself up on that. And then I came into the realization that when it comes to that, he mentioned again that Farrakhan litmus test. The Farrakhan litmus test, again, for those just now chiming in, is when someone, usually black, not always black, but someone that's usually black in entertainment and or politics, who's trying to reach a certain level, and we even get it on the civilian level. You'll go to your job and then somebody might see you with a copy of the Final Call, might see you watching a lecture of the minister on your break time, and they'll ask you, they'll sift you and ask you, how do you feel about the minister? And when they ask that, they're really trying to see whether or not you belong to them or you belong to him, or you belong to Almighty God, Allah. But I came to the understanding and the realization that the Farrakhan litmus test doesn't have to be just something that the enemy uses. What if we started using the Farrakhan litmus test? In fact, we should start doing the Farrakhan litmus test on everyone we come across. If you call yourself somebody who appreciates the minister, loves the minister, likes the minister, sympathetic to the minister, follows the minister, these are all different levels that I just named, then everybody you come across, from the mate that you're choosing, to the mate that you're choosing, to friends that you choose, to the artists that you listen to, the movies that you go to, you should run the Farrakhan litmus test across that and find out, is this somebody who's a coon, or are they about the salvation of our people? That's why he's the criterion. The criterion means if you take it and hold it up to something, that's a measurement of where it is and where it stands, the discernment, the discrimination. Al-Furqan, that's what it is. So we can use that too. Why is it just the enemy can use it? We need to be using that too. In fact, not only should those of us who like the minister use the Farrakhan litmus test, but those who hate on the minister should also use the Farrakhan litmus test on their damn self. What do I mean by that? It's very simple. Let's say you don't like the minister. I know somebody that's watching this don't like the minister. And you have two types of Negroes that fit this description. You have those who they believe they belong to some other ideology, some other type of thinking, some other religion, some other whatever. So they feel obligated because they still got that nigga gangbanging mentality in the back of their mind, even though all you hear is this, that, and the third so-called knowledge. You know, they cracked open a book when they was locked up, or cracked open a book when they were sitting at home, you know, and now all of a sudden they call themselves this or call themselves that. So just out of a niggerish, Willie Lynch gangbanging approach, they just say, nah, man, I ain't with Farrakhan, he this, he that. Okay, you got that type. And then you have those who claim that they bear witness to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, or that they bear witness that Almighty God, Allah, appeared to us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. They bear witness to this, or they say they do. Why don't you use the Farrakhan litmus test on yourself? What do I mean by that? At the beginning, I told you that the ADL and the so-called Jew is essentially the Debo of this world. They were the main underwriter, the financier of the slave trade. They are robbing artists left and right in the music industry. They are robbing people left and right all over the world in the banking industry. These so-called imposters are the absolute worst people on the earth. Brother Nick had it right the first time. Animals, savages. As this man taught us, the devil. Okay, so we cleared that. We established that. How does that devil feel about this man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? How does the devil feel about him? How does the devil feel about that dude? Does he like him? Does he support him? The same Jews, the same power structure that this man is constantly banging on. How do they feel about him? Google his name right now. Just Google it. How are the most evil Caucasians on this world that the messenger taught us was the devil, how do they feel about him? Now ask yourself this after you wrote that down. Write it down if you got to. Okay, the ADL feel this way about him. Okay, the news feels this way about him. Okay, the Democratic and the Republican Party feel this way about him. Okay, so my white coworker feel this way. Okay, that troll on Facebook feels this way. Okay, write all that down. Now ask yourself, how do you feel about it? Now measure your feelings. Write your feelings down. Look at them on a piece of paper and say, okay, who do I sound more like? Do I sound more like the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who said, when you hear him, listen to him. Wherever you see him, look at him. Wherever he says go, go. When he said that, when this man said that that man is a bearer of witness to me and my teachings, this is the messenger teaching. Who do you sound more like when you speak on that man? Do you sound more like the messenger? If you listen to the table talks, he's gushing over the minister. When you listen to his message on July 30th, 1972, the Theology of Time message, when he told you to do whatever this man says do you sound more like the messenger, or do you sound like Hillary Clinton, who pumped our brother Barack Obama into disavowing the minister? Or do you sound more like one of the Rothschilds? Or do you sound like the ADL? If you sat in a room with Simon Wiesenthal and the topic of the minister came up, would y'all agree? Would y'all be high-fiving each other? Most of you Negroes would. It's Negroes with bow ties on that would agree more with Hillary Clinton's assessment than the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's assessment. But you call yourself a Muslim, or you call yourself conscious, or you call yourself intelligent, or you call yourself being somebody that's for the betterment of our people. So the Farrakhan litmus test ain't just for Jewish people. It ain't just for white people. We can use it too. In fact, everything that white people do that's of any value, we should do it. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, observe the operations of the white man. He is successful. He makes no excuses for his failures. You can go even deeper than that. You know, let's say, a lot of our people, like I said, we so tied to the media. Like I mentioned in our last Revolutionary Relationships episode, we're so tied to the media, where the media is our God. The media is our guidance. Okay, well, let's go to the media. A lot of y'all may or may not have seen this movie, Birth of a Nation. Fantastic movie, man. Fantastic movie. But in that movie, just like a lot of movies that took place in the slave era, they had a couple of characters, black characters, who were also slaves that were deplorable. And you might think you know who I'm getting at. I'm not talking about the house Negro butler of the Turner plantation. I'm talking about the little brother who ultimately snitched on Nat Turner. When you do the Farrakhan litmus test on yourself, put Farrakhan in the position of Nat Turner, because that's exactly where he is right now. He is a man risking his life day to day for over 60 years, longer than Nat Turner was even alive, for the salvation of our people. And this little brother, out of fear and ignorance, hated on Nat Turner. Who do you look more like? Do you look more like the ones who were cutting off slave masters' heads with Nat Turner? Or do you look like this little brother? That's just a question. A lot of y'all saw the movie Django. Over to the left is our brother Samuel L. Jackson, one of the greatest actors in the history of film. And boy, he played the hell out of this role. When you put yourself on that Django criterion after the Farrakhan litmus test, who do you look more like? Do you look more like those who were sympathetic to Django, like his wife pictured here? Or do you look more like Stephen on the left? Your words, your actions, the fact that you gotta, when you see somebody on social media post about him and you gotta post something negative, you gotta run your mouth. See, you Stephen, you a coon. You a coon. Straight up. That's the reverse Farrakhan litmus test. And speaking of Birth of a Nation, I gotta speak on that movie for a couple of reasons. First of all, since we're talking about Jewish influence and how they punk, and I said that probably right now in a boardroom somewhere, in an office somewhere, your favorite rapper or favorite black celebrity is getting punked by somebody that look like Lear Cohen. This movie, Birth of a Nation, is actually one of the best so-called black movies that have been made in the last 20 years, in my humble opinion. I'm talking about the kind of movie, how it was shot, you know, the dialogue, the acting. But here's what happened for those that remember. If you remember, our brother, who played the lead role in this movie and also directed it, he had been on many movies prior to this. He was actually one of the fastest rising young black actors. And then he decided, you know what? I'm going to make a movie about Nat Turner. And now all of a sudden this story comes out about how he was charged. He was later acquitted, but charged with sexual assault. And since he was charged with sexual assault, even though he was acquitted, feminists, many of which were black, told black moviegoers, you shouldn't go see this movie. So this movie, as great as it was, the acting was superb. Even the film work. I'm a low-key film buff, so I watch movies not just for what's going on the screen, but I love cinematography. I love good acting. This movie was very well done. If you love Nat Turner, this is one type of movie that everybody was saying, man, we need a movie about Nat Turner. Well, here you go. And it was well done. It only made about $16 million. $16 million at the box office. By comparison, Black Panther, Disney's Black Panther, made 1.3 billion with a B. What was the difference? Now, some of y'all might lie and say, oh, well, I went to go see Black Panther because I'm tired of seeing slave movies. I want to see us doing something else. I'm tired of slave movies. Well, that's another reason why the so-called Jew has the upper hand on us. I was in a store the other day, just picking up, I think I was buying a toothbrush. And I saw something on the magazine rack, and I had to take a picture of it. This was on the magazine rack. This was about a week ago. Now, with all the Ahmaud Arbery's, all the Trayvon Martins, all the George Floyds, little sisters getting body slammed by the police at pool parties, black women getting knocked out by white men, all the assaults on young black people. But in the midst of all this, in this store, they got a magazine dedicated to Anne Frank, who was one of the more sympathetic, I don't want to say characters, but people of the Holocaust. If you ever read the diary of Anne Frank or seen any of the remakes of the movie, her and her family, they were holed up in their apartment in Germany or Austria. You know, it's the movie is based on, and the book is based on her diary, all the way up to the point where the SS guard, the Nazi soldiers, the Gestapo came and dragged her family out. See, the Jews never forget. They never let you forget, and they never let themselves forget about the worst moment in their existence. But we want to forget it. Because we got Huxtable syndrome. We don't even really want real success. We just want to see it on a TV screen or on a movie screen. Now back to Birth of a Nation. $16 million. It still made a profit because it didn't cost that much to make, but $16 million as opposed to Disney's Birth of a Nation. Not only was it because of this issue that they tried to bring up about the star of the movie right when it was released, but also because this was not the movie that white folks gave you permission to go see. They gave you permission to go see Black Panther. And Black Panther was a great movie. It was directed by a brother. It was a good look for us overall. But one thing you didn't find on Birth of a Nation was a sympathetic white character. And he damn sure wasn't no FBI agent. In Black Panther, you were given permission to watch this movie because look at the seed that they dropped in there. That at the end of the day, it really came down to the heroics of a benevolent white man who just happened to be an FBI agent. The same FBI which was absolutely instrumental in the murder of Malcolm X, the murder of Dr. King, the destruction of the Black Panther Party, the destruction of the Nation of Islam prior to 75. But you didn't hold that against that on the movie. You enjoyed it. You went and watched it 3 or 4 times. You showed up with your dashiki on each. You had a new dashiki on each time you went to go see it. When you sit at home and watch it today on Disney Plus, you do it with a dashiki on. You do it with a dashiki on. So that's the real reason why Birth of a Nation only made $16 million as opposed to $1.3 billion. I think Black Panther made more money in its first hour in the theaters than Birth of a Nation made. Why am I bringing that up? Because that was a perfect example of how the Jewish media controls our thinking, almost subconsciously. Why do you even try to defend Jews? What do you know about them? Have you ever read the Talmud? Do you even know what they really believe? Do you know that they believe that Jesus should be boiling in a pit of his own boo-boo? Do you know that they believe that? Do you know that they believe that it's okay to molest children? Do you know that they believe that when they do circumcision on a baby that the rabbi is supposed to suck the blood with his own lips off of the baby's penis? Do you know that? You don't know that? Do you know that there are instructions in the Talmud as to how to kill a child, to kill a baby? Did you know that? Do you know they get permission in the Talmud of how to rob people? They basically say that, imagine if the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan put out a book telling believers in the Nation of Islam that it's okay for you to kill and rob somebody if they're not a member of the Nation of Islam. Imagine how Negroes would react, especially the ones who are already using deceptive intelligence about the nation. But I digress. We about to close out. But before I close out, I want you to hear one last message from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Before we do, I want to shout out to everybody chiming in. Brother Brandon X, Brother Richard Thompson, James Stewart, all praises due to Allah. Brother Jonah Simmons says, is the litmus test really accurate with our people though, when our nature is Islam and in our right minds would never be coons, murders, etc.? You're absolutely right, that is our nature. But there's a gap between our current condition and our nature. Also, Brother Richard Thompson says, thanks for this information. Have to watch the video from the beginning. All praises due to Allah. When I go off live, it'll be available almost instantly. About 2 minutes after I go off live, you can go right back to the beginning. Brother Richard also says, wow, the minister said it all in such a way. He didn't have to bash him. Absolutely. We got to get better with that. I got to get better with that. Dealing with the issue and not the brother. Like they say, hate the sin and not the sinner. Brother Professor Brandon says, either you are with the freedom of your people or you aren't. Don't castigate Brother Nick. I lost it. Don't castigate Brother Nick. He is new to this. But the reality is, are we as believers true to this? Absolutely, brother. That's something that we got to keep in our mind. These celebrities, I know they're gods in a lot of our minds because we see them on TV. That's something else that came from slavery. That mentality that, you're not successful as a black person unless you're on a stage. Unless you're on a stage. That's, because that was one of the types of slaves that got treated a little bit better. The ones who could play an instrument. The ones who could tap dance. The ones that could play the fiddle, like Fiddler on Roots. They didn't have to work as hard. They had a little bit more trust and a little bit more freedom, so-called freedom, on the plantation. So that was put in our minds. That seed was dropped on us early on in slavery. And now to this day, we're raising our children exclusively to be some kind of entertainer or athlete. Do you know every time you pass by a business, any business, next time you get in your car, I want you to count how many businesses that you pass by. You're gonna lose count. Do you know that each business, there are about 30 businesses that one business has to rely on to stay in business? Let me say that again. Every business that you see, that business relies on at least 30 other businesses just to keep its doors open, just to stay in business. So that's how many possibilities that a child has in the world. They can become millionaires from selling bicycle tires. Every bicycle company got to get their tires from somebody. So there's so many businesses. When a house is built, there are all these, you see all these hard hats on the construction site. They're not all knocking a hammer. One brother working on this, another brother working on the drywall, another brother working on the copper wire, another brother working on the ceiling, another brother working on the roof, the other brother working on the tile. There's so many ways to be successful and make money, but we only pushing athletics and entertainment on our children simply because we just want attention, we want to be loved, and we think that's the only way we can get paid. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with a final word from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that encapsulate everything we just went over. But I think this is the best way to sum it all up from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Listen closely.
And I don't have no time to play with truth or to be diplomatic. To hell with you diplomats and your foolish diplomacy. Speak straight words, because those are the words that will bring about a change, not this delicate language. I want to be politically correct. How in the hell can you be politically correct when you're blind, deaf, and dumb and destroyed by your enemy? To hell with you and your political correctness. Be a man, be a woman, and speak the truth, and then die on that truth if it comes to that. Stand up.
All praises due to Allah. Speak straight words, people. Speak straight words. And make sure that you're standing on your square and that you got a square to stand on. And when the enemy comes, and he will, if you're doing anything right in this world, this enemy will come in one way or the other. Make sure. One last thing before I get out of here. As I said before, we believe that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the Jesus in our midst. We also talk by this magnificent brother that the majority, 3/4 to be exact, the three-fourths of the teaching of Jesus in the Bible is prophecy and not history. 3 characters you want to pay attention to right now in the story of Jesus. 4, I should say. 4. 1 is Judas. Everybody know about Judas. 2 is Peter. 3 is the John. There are 3 different types of Johns that are in the Bible. They're not all the same John. John the Revelator, John the Baptist, and Saint John. I'm talking about Saint John, who was one of the disciples of Jesus. And then the other one is one named Malchus. Not Malcolm, Malchus. Be careful and ask yourself, which one of those am I looking like right now in terms of the minister? Which one am I looking like? Am I looking like Judas? Those are those who suddenly are so critical of the minister. You want to be, you're envious of the minister. Are you looking like Peter? Peter's an interesting subject because before Jesus was arrested in the Bible, Peter was turned up. He was gangster. He was the biggest mouth of the disciples. Man, I'll kill somebody over the minister. I mean Jesus. I wish somebody would say something about Farrakhan. Jesus. And he backed it up a little bit because when they came to arrest Jesus, he got into a scuffle with one of the Roman guards and cut his ear off. There's a deep meaning to that. I touched on it on my Facebook page. He cut his ear off. And then Jesus came right behind him, scolded him for doing that, and then with one of his miracles, he was able to repair the ear of that Roman authority, of that Roman soldier. Which means sometimes when we attack our people and we attack people thinking that we're defending the minister, and we coming at our people, especially our people, savage, you throwing trash in a well that the minister is trying to get a drink out of. You cutting off their ear to the point where they can't even listen to the minister. They can't even, you never know. There's another character to be aware of in the scripture, Paul. Paul came after the so-called crucifixion of Jesus. Paul, prior to his vision on the road to Damascus, Paul was a detractor of Jesus. The little bit that he knew about Jesus, he didn't like it. If you would have talked to Paul earlier in the New Testament and say, man, what you think about Jesus? He would have been like, man, F Jesus. But after Jesus was crucified, Paul had a vision on the road to Damascus, which has another deep meaning to it. And he realized who Jesus really was. And he ended up becoming one of the greatest apostles of Jesus, even though he never actually walked with Jesus. He didn't walk with him like Peter and Judas and all them ones that turned on him. And St. John is one to look at, because not only was he one of the few, really one of the only brothers who stood with Jesus all the way to the cross, but he took it upon himself to look out for the sisters who loved Jesus. He guarded and walked with all three of the Marys that loved Jesus. So pay attention to where you stand. Even if you don't believe, like I said, even if you don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe in no religion, well, you believe in the Matrix. Negroes will smoke some weed and talk your ear off about the Matrix, about if I hear red pill or blue pill one more damn time, I'm going to lose my mind. A movie directed by two Jewish transvestites. They were biological brothers when the first Matrix came out. By the time the third Matrix came out, they were calling themselves biological sisters. And that's a fact. Google it. And you constantly talk about the Matrix, even though that is clear fiction. Clear fiction. So go into the New Testament and ask yourself, who are you looking like right now? And the minister said that the people in Scripture not only represent, as far as prophecy concerned, not only do they represent a person, but they represent a group of people. So figure out where you stand. If you don't like the way you're looking right now, you still got time. As of right now, you still got time to switch roles. If you're looking like Judas right now, if you're looking like Peter, talking all that yang, but when the pressure get tough, you deny Jesus 3 times. That's what Peter did. He was the biggest talker. Go around social media, you'll see. Some of us swear up and down that we'll cut somebody's head smooth off over Farrakhan, but just pay attention. But with that said, I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. I'm hungry. I'm exhausted. But I thank you for your time. Time is actually the most, I talked about currency before. Time is one of the most valuable pieces of currency that you can give someone. Simply because when you give somebody your time, there are no refunds. You can't get it back. Unlike money. If you give me $20, you can go make $20 back. So I thank you for that time. And I leave you as I greeted you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
I was told to deliver this message.